Order, it is 6 o'clock. There is a sign-in sheet back in the corner. If you intend to speak during the meeting, we require you to sign in. You don't have to sign in if you're not going to speak. Did you get here on time?
I'm on time. Where's your salad?
All right, folks, if we can keep the muttering down so we can get started, please. Okay, people, please, no chattering.
Okay.
All right, I don't know if Bart's coming or not. We have a quorum otherwise. Any board member or staff have any additions to the agenda? If not, motion to approve. Director Rogers moved to approve the agenda as presented. Director McMaster seconded. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Opposed? Maybe I'll share it. Okay, consent agenda is next. Anyone have, any board member have anything they'd like to pull off the consent agenda? If not,
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
moved and seconded. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carries. Public participation, Japanese garden.
Yes, we have a representative. Go ahead.
My name is Bob Woodruff. I'm a volunteer at Cheyenne Valley Middle School, and I have a request for funding in to help with the renovation of the Japanese garden that's at the entrance of the school. For longer than there's been at Cheyenne Valley Middle School, there's been an exchange program between Newburgh schools and schools in Wadayama, Japan. That started and then moved over with the people that started that when TV was built. In 1997, to honor that that partnership between our sister school in Wadayama, Japan, the school in Wadayama paid for a Japanese garden to be built at the entrance of the school, and it's been there since 1997. And each year, when the families came from Japan, they would help tend to the garden, and it's been a symbol of peace and friendship ever since it was built. Recently, the district, with the bond that was passed, did work on the front of the building that cut into the footprint of the garden. And the original plan, the architect working with the district kind of moved everything to the right. So I just kind of cold called around I just Googled Portland Japanese garden designers, and I just had the amazing fortune to cross paths with a gentleman named Hoichi Kurisu, who lives over in Sherwood. And he is an internationally known Japanese garden designer. He was one of the first directors of the Portland Japanese Garden. And he has volunteered his services to help design a complete renovation. And we are in the process of raising money to do that. We've gotten donations from so far from the Early Bird Rotary Foundation in town here. We just got another grant from First Federal, and so we're asking for CPRD to help support that, similar to like we do with playgrounds and that sort of thing. So hopefully we'll find it.
Okay. My first question would be, how much is the school district kicking in?
I've been talking with Larry Hampton, and we're trying to figure out what is the money that would have been used to help for that relocation, but I don't have a number for that yet.
Who would maintain this?
It would be volunteers led by myself.
Yep.
Yeah, so I took the opportunity to drive by and take a look at
the past garden, I
It's
guess
kind
you,
of a wreck right now.
I guess you could call that. Are you going to, yeah, it is, they definitely did a number on it, they did
There
the
should be
expansion.
in the packet that you all have, there should be the conceptual drawings. of it.
Yeah, I saw that, but, are you gonna be moving some of those trees that are there already, because those were planted initially, are you gonna move some of those?
I don't think he's looking at moving any of the trees that are there. He came out in November and donated his services to prune all those trees. So those are gonna be incorporated into the.
So they will be part of it, you're just gonna kind of expand out and around?
Exactly.
And so, are the kids gonna have an opportunity to be involved in the planning and the development and maybe even the planting? You said there's 490 kids in Chelan Valley, it'd be,
As much as possible, they're more likely, because of the specialty nature of Mr. Kurisu and his work, more likely it'll be more on the maintenance side, but as you were asking. So when it comes to pruning, weeding, that was how I got involved with the garden. You know, neither of my kids, both my kids went to CV. My daughter's younger daughter is currently an 8th grader. Neither went on the Wadayama exchange trip. We got involved with it because in 2019, we partnered with the Oregon Department of Forestry. They had a program where there's a woman down in Ashland who lives in Oregon now, but she grew up in Hiroshima. She survived the atomic blast. And she has developed a nonprofit and worked with a nonprofit in Hiroshima. When the atomic bomb went off, there were quite a number of trees that survived that blast. And there's a nonprofit there now that takes cuttings and sends those cuttings around the world as symbols of peace. And we have one of those Hiroshima survivor trees at the entrance of the garden.
yeah, I read it, that's awesome.
And that, we planted that tree the last day of school before lockdown started for COVID. And my oldest daughter was an 8th grader at the time. So she and I started going over there to water the tree. And while we were watering the tree, we were like, well, you know, the grass here. And so we just took over tending to the garden, and this is all kind of grown out now.
That's awesome. I just have one more question. Is the PTO involved at all?
They are.
Financially or just with helping or?
You know, right now, they're mostly, because their funds are pretty low right now. My wife is the president of the parent group, and they've been real helpful. They've set up an account for us for taking in the donations. They're kind of helping with the administrative side of things.
Okay.
They're a nonprofit, so anybody who donates can use that tax.
And you've applied to some other foundations and so on and so forth, and
I've got more grants into the Austin Family Foundation, the
Right.
Ford Family Foundation, but I haven't heard back.
Anybody else? So your request is for $7,000.
Correct.
So, just, you know, for folks who are here, so the superintendent has the ability to grant such requests or make expenditures up to $5,000. So this is basically a discussion of whether or not we want to do the extra 2, because he did recommend at least the 5. So that is our pleasure.
well, I just, you know, when you have other grants in the works and more money may be coming in, you get more than that 22,000. Is that?
So that would be a wonderful problem to have. I haven't gotten.
It may happen.
If it does, that money would be in that account run by the parent group and would be dedicated to the maintenance of the
Okay.
garden.
So I'll move that we approve the $7,000 contingent upon the other funding getting raised before we release it.
You want a second?
Okay, moving second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, those opposed? Motion carries.
Thanks for volunteering, we appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
It's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
I'll keep you updated as we go along.
All right, yes. Yes, feel free to leave. Let me know for everybody who's here. I don't know what all you were here for, so you're welcome to stay till the very end. We're not offended if you leave when we get to your point on the agenda. We have others not on the agenda. So I assume we have some people wanting to talk here.
This is about the golf analytics.
Mr. Wiley,
Yes.
go ahead.
You want to pull up that link? That's in that direction. What you're seeing here is a system that I'm donating to the golf course. This is a prototype of it. It uses some of your data, but it's not filtered. This will allow the golf course to basically drill down on any of the operations, what's being used, what's not being used, if they do promotions, how did that affect the income of the golf course, so forth. One of the things that I found in developing this, and I'm not going to go through an individual thing on each one of these things, there's more screens below it. This was done in conjunction with Kellen, and what he wanted to see. These are heat maps showing you when, like I said, when people show up to eat, this, that, and the other. What we were trying to do here was create a thing that he could use that was under his specifications, and that's where we've come up so far. These will be available, I mean, anybody can look at it, we give permission to on cell phones or PCs, any way you can access the internet. One of the interesting things that we pulled up when we were doing the data analysis was looking at customer retention, which is very important for any organization. And we have 33 months here, 33 months of data, and that's the only data they have, because when you came off your old in-house server and went to the online, the data wasn't transferred over. So this was clearly 33 months of your own data, ending in December 31 of this year, or last year, excuse me. Well, you're able to add, over that 3-year period, or basically 31 months, 2,799 new people. You retained 2,910, and you lost 6,041. So for every new person you're getting, you're losing 2.37 people. So therefore, there's nice thing about these systems is it clearly points out where there's an issue, and you can go down and drill down and figure out what's going on. But I guess one of the things it points out, if you're in the parking lot business and you see your customer going downhill, you don't build more parking lots.
Quick question, does that have to do with also people that are just traveling through town, stop once and go?
Well, the statistics were made very, very simply. It looked at, one of the years was only 9 months, okay? But just for the sake of discussion, we'll talk about 3 years, okay? So you had year number 1, year number 2, and year number 3. Number 3 ended in December, this last December. So it just captured everybody. Didn't care how much you played, didn't care anything about that. It said, did you show up in year number 1, yes or no? If the answer was yes, you got a 1. You're basically a customer. Did you show up in year number 2? Yes. Okay. You're definitely a customer. Did you show up year number 3? Say yes. Then you're a retained customer. Okay. You showed up in the last year. You played sometime during the previous 2 years. So we kept you. It could be in 1 you showed up, 2 you didn't, and 3 you did. You're still retained.
Thanks.
Anybody who gets a 0 in the last year is considered lost, because we can't look into the future. We're only measuring the real data, what's going on. Okay, so they could have showed up 2 years straight, and 3rd year didn't show up, it's considered lost. Now you do this continuously. Okay, you just don't stop and say, well, we're not going to measure it for another year. You look at the whole all the time, and that's one of the benefits of analytics. Is it just sucks it right out of golf now. You don't have to do anything. Okay, so it's going to stuff it in probably once a month. It's more than sufficient, and it will derive all of these statistics, and we can always put in more if you want. Okay. Now, one of the nice things about golf now is you can follow player trends by how much they play, when they play, and so forth. And, you know, Don has always talked about how he plays from the free golf with him and his friends, and I thought, well, how many times does he play? Quite a bit.
Excuse me, this is so inappropriate.
No, it
This
isn't.
is so inappropriate, Hunter. I am sorry. This is not the place to be doing this. It is a policy of this board and it has been for years and years and years, that anybody on the board can utilize the facilities at CPRD. That you're pulling out one person at this time, I find that to
So-
be really, really.
So I looked up the policies, I asked CPRD what the policies and procedures were, and they gave them to me.
That's
I said-
funny because we asked for them and we were told there are no bylaws. Lisa,
The bylaws?
let the man speak.
Yeah.
You don't run this place.
You know what, right now, we do, so you
It's not
can-
gonna be for long.
Yeah,
God willing.
well,
You know,
dude, you
we don't
guys
need to go there
stop there.
He
tonight.
doesn't need to go
No,
there.
we don't need to go there
No,
tonight.
that's
He's
not-
speaking, that's fine, thank you.
I requested bylaws, I was given the bylaws by Cat, okay? I have an open communication with the people here. When I asked for something, legitimate documentation, and they gave me the board bylaws, and they also gave me the bylaws written by Don that were a creed that he had all of the board members swear to. I'm not making a judgment on those calls, none at all. One of which is using park services for free. Is unethical, it says right in there, under the unethical category, using park services free is not allowed. No ifs, ands, or buts.
Okay, are we going analytics, or are we talking about?
The analytics proved what was going on, okay? I had no idea that anybody was getting free golf until they said so. I had not, that wasn't one of my big things in golf analytics. One of my big things in golf analytics was reporting accurate data that you can use. And the idea that just because I run into something that seems a little odd, particularly when a board member's bragging about it, I don't think that's ethical. It doesn't make it right at all. And no other member of the board is using that over there. That's the only real paid resource there.
That is not true in the past, so, you know,
Whatever, it's, at least in looking at the 3 years or 33 months of data, that's true now.
yes, Doug?
The board discussed this many years ago, even before Don Loving came on the board. It was discussed whether the board would be allowed to use services. There was quite a bit of discussion going on. It was decided by the board at that time that it was good that the board attended the facilities, used the program. As a matter of fact, it should be encouraged. And that was the reason for the board making that possibility. It's been carried on forever, not only the board, but the staff as well. The staff also uses the facilities. And the only exception to that is when there's money involved. That is when a contractor is paid for something and they charge. But that's it. I can't remember, maybe 2 or 3 times that issue has ever come up. But that was the only thing that was decided. But that's been ongoing since the 80s.
Well, unfortunately, the policies and procedures you produce right here don't say that. In fact, as they say exactly the opposite. These are written specifically for board members. And they are using district services for personal use. Now, not only is he using them for personal use, he's got his friends and associates using them. That's no board discussion ever covered that at all. So all these policies and procedures, if you can say, oh, well, we have an early gentleman's agreement and we can violate these, why have any of them? I mean, things like you can pad your expenses over, not over 10%, that shouldn't be in there. But, you know, I'm not sitting here calling everything that's in there. These are your policies and procedures written by you.
Let me see that.
But even if it is
I
true,
didn't write this.
Well, I think you need to tell your staff that they're telling everybody you did.
Well,
So,
what that was a board training. It was an article that was The board of directors training, I still have the material from it where they went in. It was Gary Walker and Chris Edgington with the University of Oregon came in and gave a training. You remember that, Jim, many years ago. All the staff attended. That's where you're getting that from. But you didn't, I don't know, it's not a policy.
So it is a policy to let people come in and use services for not only themselves, but other people that are not affiliated with the board in any way, shape, or form. Is that true?
Again, you're asking me a question that I don't know what you're talking about.
Well,
In
I've got-
other words,
If you'd like to see the printed receipts of that happening, I can give them to you. I can tell you date, time, number of people. I've got all that.
well, then we'll meet and sit down and look at it. I'll be glad to meet with you and to look at it. Have you met with Kellen?
Yes,
And he knew about it?
yes,
Is Kellen here?
no.
All right.
I don't have
You and
discussions
me
in
and
private.
Kellen will meet.
Well, what's that gonna settle? You're talking about board policy here. You, me, and Kellen don't set board policy. Period. And I'm not gonna get wound up on some visit.
What you're quoting there is not board policy. That's a training manual that was used
When I
by
asked
Walker
for
and
board
Edgington.
policies and procedures, I received this. I don't make the determination of what your department sends out, okay? That's not my job. I asked for a legitimate document and I received it. Now, I'm sure I go in here, I can find stuff about gifts. When you take the outlier of non-board members receiving these things and looking at them as, when they're logged in here, as employee discounts, that's nonsense. Non-board member receiving free golf and is shown as an employee discount. This is not ethical. I mean, I look at the golf course and I'm trying to help you guys. I don't come here with an empty bag saying, I'm just going to criticize you. I try to put together stuff that's worth a lot of money. So the golf course,
And I appreciate that.
but I
Thank
don't
you.
see any cooperation at all. Now, Kellen and I are getting along fine because it's just an open book of free conversation. So
Okay, since you're talking about, I'm gonna give the gavel to Jim, who's the vice chair, and we can.
Yeah, so Don is-
You can legislate. Let me just make clear, I'm not gonna debate with you. You know, when I first came to the board, I was told that the benefit of being on the board was that board members and staff were allowed to use park district facilities.
Are elected officials allowed to receive gifts past $50? No, they're not.
Not a gift,
It is a gift.
no.
It's an
I
in-kind
think I'm
gift.
the only other elected official in the room besides this board. You are not allowed to receive a gift that is over $50. If you do, you have to report it on your SEI.
I hope you're hearing this, Lisa.
Have you reported any of these on your SEI? If you have, then you're fine. But if you haven't, then you have violated ethics laws.
And you are,
I'm Commissioner Lindsay Burschauer,
thank
an elected official. And we take this very seriously.
Let's be clear, no employees, no non-staff or board member place for free. There's a guest rate. People pay that rate.
and sometimes, other times I noted they don't pay anything. I can show you the date and times it is, Don. I mean, this is your data. I don't make this stuff up.
Anyone who's ever played with me has always paid the guest rate.
Well, somebody's using your name then because it's on every one of these receipts. Okay? This is your data. You're meeting the golf course in the district.
okay, Don has made a recommendation, you meet with him?
I'm not going to waste my time, frankly. I've
Okay.
been through those meetings with Don, and they end up discussing non-issues.
Well, we appreciate your information. Thank you for bringing it to us.
And if you'd like a copy of that, here they are.
Okay?
That's non-edited data. Oh, there's one statement that I'd like to make in conclusion of that. And it's a summary of some of this. Today, I'd like to share with you ethical and financial challenges facing CPRD. Specifically, you must deal with a situation where the CPRD superintendent has a documented unethical relationship with the chair of the board that oversees your district. Current situation, CPRD is heavily involved in projects that the public cannot afford, which has led to significant financial risks and never-ending projects. This has resulted in decreased funding for core services, properties, programs, and has put your long-term financial sustainability in jeopardy. Furthermore, I have identified and documented unethical financial relationship with CPRD superintendent and the present chair of the elected CPRD board, which is not only a violation of numerous ethical standards, but also poses legal and reputational risks. This is not good for the district. Recommendations. To address these challenges, you need to execute the following actions. Given the prima facie nature of the public admission of free use of district resources for himself and his associates, district supplied original records for 33 months ending in 12/31/22 of 100+ violations, published district ethics and board policies. You need to remove Mr. Loving from the board because of his public admission of
Hunter,
purported.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I guess now that you passed the gavel on to me, it'd be great if you could send that information to us ahead of time so we can talk about it. This is coming from you. I don't know, we haven't been able to study it as a board. We appreciate it, but I think that we would like, if you're going to do this, we'd like something ahead of time so we can look at it, so we can answer questions.
Let me give you an example of why.
And I get it.
No,
I
don't want to talk about this. I want to talk about the process you're talking about.
You're going from analytics onto something else.
I understand.
And then onto something else. And I thought that we were just going to be
This
talking about
deals
analytics.
with the stuff I just did there. And I talked about analytics because it pointed out where the real data was. Okay, that's the evidence. The issues that, using your approach, the last time I was speaking in front of the board, and I understand the policy of the board is you have to submit requests that you're going to get your allotment of time and so forth. Then you can address that topic for whatever time when it's appropriate.
Thank you.
Not an issue. Okay. But the last time I spoke, the mystery guest showed up on the screen. Total violation of board policies. Not announced, not on the agenda, not there at all. That was at someone's convenience.
You talk about the engineer.
Yeah. And the first question I asked the engineer was, is the street that you've got laid out here basically a correct design or incorrect design based on what I just told you? He says it's incorrect. Everything else, and he sat there and stared at the screen and fumbled around, he finally cut it off, but immediately flushed it. So do I think I'm getting an unbiased, fair chance at discussing? I was trying to get you $20,000 back. Had nothing to do with the park. Had to do with a rotten study. I mean, ODOT will take that thing and just do that. It's crap. You'll never get anything approved of it. Why am I the bad guy trying to get you money back?
We didn't say that you were the bad guy.
Well, I'm being played for the bad guy.
I think he was giving you information from his standpoint.
He was introduced with no board authority. Someone gave it to him to be introduced. He wasn't on the agenda. That's not how this game is played. If you want me to play by the game, then play by the game. The rules of the game. So I found that not a lot of productive conversations with the superintendent. Mainly because I can't rely on any information.
Okay, thank you.
I would like to finish what I was saying. You're the board chair.
I know.
You got the hammer.
Thanks, Hunter. It would be great to submit that to the board and we can discuss it as a board and look at it. I mean, you're just throwing stuff out of it and we just say, oh, okay. Because we need to look and get the background.
Probably the same experience that I had when you introduced one of your guys. Same exact experience.
Well, Hunter, you're coming in every single time, like bashing what the staff is doing.
No, I'm
in
not.
terms of moving forward with projects. Let me have my turn. And you come in you started with pickleball and you've gone all over the place. And you're taking professionals that have come in with information, and you're using whatever analytics you're using to disagree with it, you were totally dissing the guy that had done all the work, and you don't want to hear from him? There's reasons why he's done what he's done, but you don't want to hear from that? You're giving us one side and expect us to say, okay, we need information to make an informed decision.
Okay.
Just because you say it doesn't mean it's right.
Oh, I would agree if I was just saying that would be the case. But when I went back and did a study or geotech report for the bridge, I came back with, okay, this is gonna cost you between $100,000 and $1.2 million more than you thought. Who do I go to? Engineers, people who know how to do that stuff, people who build stuff on grounds. I talked to Casey and Don about that specific, and gave it all to them in writing. Now, our recommendation was, don't tear it, I didn't say anything about tearing down the bridge. I said, go talk to the guys who did your spec and get some names of people who can do that bid for you, so you know what it's gonna cost. So telling me that this is my opinion, that's bullshit.
Okay. Hunter,
I don't like being called basically coming in here with a bunch of junk. When the fact is, I've come in to help you guys.
well, I appreciate that, I do. But I'd like to have the information before you come in so I can review it and look at it and ask questions, because right now it's just like, you know,
Nothing we can do.
that's where I'm at. So if we could do that for the next board meeting, and we could read over your material, that's what we'd like to do, and talk to the superintendent about it. But right now, it's just, I mean, it's your words, and I'm not saying I don't believe them.
This is not my.
I'm not saying I don't believe them. I'm saying I'd like to look it over before you come in here and do this, because it's taking up other people's time too.
Anybody want to relinquish their time to me?
I was going to. That's why we have all these people here. But Lisa tried to I was gonna go for a minute, but I'll just wait till, yeah. That's why all these people showed up. You guys are here to serve us in the community.
And we
You
want
tried
to.
to kick us out. She tries to cut him off, and you tried to cut me off.
I'm
It's not right,
trying to
man.
get the information versus him just telling us. I'd like to have some background on it and look at it before he just tells us and we have to say, oh, okay.
All right,
But Hunter, will you do that for us?
I will come in and meet with the board members. And I'm gonna restrict, and I hope you restrict yourself, not to opinion, but to facts. Okay? There's a lot of stuff that seems to get overlooked that it's just really intolerable.
Don't sit. You got people that are gonna relinquish their time, starting with me in a minute.
The board goes out and has, Don made a comment to me once that he has zero cost of capital. And to him too, he was there in the meeting. And we're going, what? You don't have zero cost, nobody gets free money. You know what, I've got a graph that's over here that shows you where that money comes from. And you ought to look at that. That says you're overtaxing these folks. Because, I went to unreliable source of information, the Oregon Treasury Department. And I pulled up 5 years of your cash balances. And I said, fine, let's compare them to 5 years of other people's cash balances. Not so much as the dollar amounts, but how fast they're growing, what your expenses are out of your own annual reports. That's not made up stuff, that's your data. And I said, what are the ratios that we're seeing here? Well, if you went to a place like Bend, their reserve, their operating capital, which everybody needs, is about 57 to 60% over a 5-year period, or whatever amount they were spending. So if that went up, then obviously the net cash of 57% of whatever that number was increased the account. Your accounts go up, they start at almost the same thing as Bend. I'm talking about dollar amounts as far as what they're expending. And you watch your expenditures every year. Then you look at your basically your net investments back into that account over the average value of your account values for 4 months per year. So we're looking at your average balance per year. You're right now approaching between 120 and 130% of your net cash needs for the whole year. In essence, even before the taxes were put in place.
And you realize a lot of our revenue is seasonal too, right?
Oh, it's all in there.
Okay.
I mean, that's the reason I averaged it. I said, I'm not looking at the high points. I said, give me the average for the years. Average for this year, the average for this year, the average for this year. Okay, what was their expenditures? What percentage of coverage, well, that's the term coverage, is how well can you pay your bills? The financial term. They're up to, excuse me, they're up to 120% of the demand. If you didn't collect a dime in taxes, you could pay off all your bills, all your debt that's due that year, and still have 20% left. You look at a place like Bend, they run at 57% to 60%, consistently, of whatever their expenditures are. Well,
They're
that's,
taking it in grants and everything else.
no, everything you've reported, okay? This is not taking exception to the numbers reported, it's not, and it's all from the state. They supply all this stuff for them. This is valuable information you ought to look into. When you approve those taxes, the first question, the really tough one, was, do you need it? The fact is, you didn't. You didn't need it. You got more money you know what to do with.
Well,
All right, then who actually alerted me to this was Secretary of State. Just an offhand remark, said, boy, those guys got a lot of money. I go, what are they talking about? So then I did the research and compared the other districts. I don't know what the appropriate levels are, so I'll let, the community determine that.
now where's our tax rate versus some of the other districts?
Forget that. What's your net income? And you know how you get a net income? You guys use a net income calculation accounting. What comes in, pay all the debt, pay all the expenses, and what goes out. That's surplus, right? Look at your surplus. Forget the tax rate. Look at your surpluses. Your surpluses are huge.
Look at the SDCs.
The SDCs are a whole other animal that I'm exploring now. Those SDCs have teeth in them.
SDCs only affect people who are moving in. Do you know what an SDC does?
System development charts. They
Yes.
basically are taxed on capacity to address the capacity of the organization.
Yes.
And I have no objection to SDCs, okay, none. But if you have sufficient funds, and those funds are coming in faster than the new taxes are, i.e. at a greater rate, the resulting number is, well, here's X and this is 2X. And X is your new taxes, and you already had 2X in the bank in excess of what is normally needed. We're talking 120% here, not some peanut number.
So you realize though too, right, SDCs can only be used for specific things.
Absolutely.
And so then if you looked at just the general fund, the other side of it, the operations, there's two different things here, right? And the one is for projects and the other is for operations.
I understand.
And if you cut all that down, but
I'm
the extra money is coming from there.
not debating whether the SDCs or taxes or general fund taxes or funds that primarily taxes that generate general funds aren't legitimate for when they were put in. That's not a debate. It's what is. And what is generates income.
But when you're doing your calculations, when you're doing, are you taking the full budget? So you're taking the SDC, everything in there?
The whole balance you put into that account.
Well, so that's what I'm saying, is that you can't, more than half our money is in SDCs. If you're gonna say all of a sudden, you're gonna cut the tax rate on this side that pays for the general fund stuff, there's not gonna be enough money to operate.
Well, that could be the case, but it's not certainly demonstrated. That may be what you believe, but I would rather go back to hard numbers. I look at hard numbers, okay?
Well, yes,
I'm not
but
trying-
it depends on, I look at hard numbers every day too, Hunter, and it depends on how you're looking at them. If you're looking at them, those hard numbers, where you can't use half of the numbers, those numbers are no longer valid.
If you're trying, here's an example of where I think that matters, okay? Your auditors come in and they go through your books. And they come back with an exception that said you've used SDC funds in excess to pay debt. That's one thing about it, and that was for $954,000, 15% of your budget. So I think I know how these things should be accounted for and looked at. What the board isn't doing is looking at it. Now, I went back and thought, well, maybe then when I see in October, Don brings that, out of the financial end, it flows through like grease. Gets approved by the board, and that's the end of it. Now, SDCs, if you're gonna file a complaint against usage of SDC charges and levying, you got 24 months. Well, he had that auditor's report for 9 months, and you guys didn't see it. If I hadn't gone to the Secretary of State and raised hell and brought you a copy that you didn't have, and you admitted at that time you hadn't seen it, and then miraculously it appeared. This was after 3 written and verbal requests to him. Didn't get it. Now that slipped right on through. So I said, well, maybe you ought to check on what happened to that. It's only $954,000. I don't know if it was legitimate or not. I have no idea. Did anybody ask? The answer is no. None of you asked. And how do I know? I talked to his staff in the last 2 weeks. First question was, where's this year's audit? I get back this note and I don't blame the staff first. I want to make that perfectly clear. They're being very cooperative. Here's this note back saying, oh, thanks for reminding us from the auditor. This is their note. We'll get on to it. This is what, 3 weeks ago? Something like that? It was due January 1. Okay, second question. Of that $954,000, what was determined? I didn't know. Oh, and the answer comes back, it was a data entry error. And I went, I don't think so. But, okay, it was a data entry error. Do you have another letter from the auditor clarifying that? Because it has to go to the Secretary of State and it has to come here in front of the board as that correction. Do you have those clarifications? Do you have that letter? Well, no, wasn't required.
Did you talk to, you were talking to Heidi?
Yeah, this is all in writing. I can give you copies, I have it, right along with me. So the next thing I asked for is, well, no, Heidi, that's not gonna fly. That major of an area, I mean, there was like $660 on general ledger, who cares, the general fund. That's gonna have to get correct. 15% of your budget, that's gonna take some attention. The next thing I get back was, well, we pay our bills. What? We pay our debt. I said, I know you pay your debt. It's in the annual report, it's in your audited report. So what's going on with this? Well, you'll have to come and talk to myself. Well, Heidi didn't say any of that stuff. I mean, Don did. That all came from him. Heidi doesn't do that kind of stuff. That's not her nature. So why am I reluctant to sit down and talk to Don? That's it. I'm getting just one line after another. Now understand, there's a time limit on those SDCs. You're into it 20 months now, 22 months. 2 more months, no more questions, it's accepted. As a board, you need to know where that money's going. And you need to appreciate research done by people like me who come up and point these major deficiencies out. You and I have discussed like $250,000 that was in a document produced by CPRD regarding budgets and allocations, specific allocations for, I think it was golf club equipment. No questioning about the request for the equipment, none. It's an approved budget. And that's the only thing you and I have talked about was that, okay? She said she could find it. I went back to Heidi, it's not there. Not in the budget. Okay, why does it say approved on this document? Well, it really wouldn't approve. That's a problem. When you represent that stuff to the public, it needs to be right.
Amen.
And if it's not right, it can be corrected. It's like asking what they did with this $954,000. Accountants said, hey, right there, boys, $954,000. Payment of debt. One of the problems with SDC money is it comes with teeth. You have to spend it on a specific project, you have to spend it on a specific time, you can't use it for maintenance, you can't use it for administrative billings, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Well, that accountant probably understands that a lot better than me, and he pointed it out. That is another problem the board has. You own the accountants, they don't. They answer to you and you only. No other responsibility. The accountants will ask them for data, they will produce a report, you get the report, and then you get to beat the crap out of them. to get information out. If you don't understand accounting or the process, they gotta educate you on it, because they work for you. You need to take total ownership of that. That's the reason, I mean, there's a graph in there that shows you that cash thing, and you're gonna sit there and go, what? How much cash you're accumulating? You know, I understand your point on the SDC charges, what you can spend and what you can't spend, but all the rest of it is totally out of control. Yeah.
You and I can agree to disagree, because I think that the increase in SDCs over the last few years has allowed for us to do some things, which is where that cash is coming from. It is not in the
Aren't you talking
operations
about
side.
taxes and SDCs, two completely different?
They're both
They're both
types of
taxes.
taxes, but an SDC is only charged for new developments that are being
But it
built.
sounds like he's talking about other things besides SDCs.
He is, but what he's saying is that we have so much cash, but if that cash can only be used for projects. The operational part of it, if you start taking away or reducing the tax rate, you're not gonna have enough to
But it sounds like
operate
you're
the
trying to deflect from the problems and push
The-
it all into SDCs.
Okay, if we're gonna talk, you have to introduce yourself so we know who you
I'd
are.
like to clarify something here. SDC charges have to be used for specific projects, okay? And if what you're saying is true, and I'm not doubting your word, but I'm just saying, when you break the numbers apart, or however they fall, they fall. Why haven't they been spent? Because they're supposed to be spent to address expansion. I don't see any major projects that are being funded. As in dirt in the ground, you know, shovel in the ground, dirt over the shoulder. I mean, I assume Sanders, and I don't know, Sanders shouldn't qualify for an SDC. Why, if you got all this money, and that thing has been delayed over grants and whatever else, that would seem to be an obvious place to put it. You guys can set the priorities, but I mean, that's a place you can put it.
Well, we can set the priorities, we don't do the work. We don't direct the staff.
That
We
may
set
be a
the
mistake.
policies.
That may be
It
a
is-
policy that you should consider.
You
If
can't,
you-
that's the structure, that's the structure. In any board, you get to direct the executive director, the superintendent, and that's it. But you don't get to tell him how to do his operations. You get to set the tone and the policy for the organization.
If the superintendent is not acting in the best interest of the district, you can get rid of the problem.
Yep.
And if the
And that's
superintendent, after however many years, has not made this one of the most amazing places to live.
Don't make us puke, Lisa.
No,
Please.
okay.
Please, then how many of you go out there and use the resources that
Give
are
other
that's
people a
here?
chance to talk.
No,
You
Don
should
has done
introduce
some great
yourself to
things
them.
for the district, there's no
Oh, I
doubt
will.
about it. The pool, the
You
stuff
can't give
behind
them.
a crater in Hill Valley, no one's denying that, okay? The current projects, well, maybe a different color, okay? I'll be interested in hearing what the bid was. Go ahead, I think,
Director Gale has a.
go ahead.
I just comment, I would, as the inexperienced board member here, I actually would like to chew through a couple of these issues and just prove to myself what, especially the ODOT thing. I mean, there's a handful, there's concerns that are raised every single time, and I would like to talk through, I don't know how what the structure for doing that is. But I don't want to have this, I guess I'm not feeling the unified front on dismissing everything.
I'm not dismissing it. I'm seriously not dismissing it. What I'm saying is that the presentation, it's Hunter talking to us and everybody listening. And I, on the budget piece of it, I will say, I'm not talking about the bridge right now, but on the budget piece of it, there are really specific reasons. It's not easy. It's a complicated budget. There are
I
real,
believe I understand that,
right.
but there's not much, there's a lot of the budget I don't understand. So those are questions that I should have answered. And I don't understand this well enough to dismiss, yet I also have watched Hunter come in a handful of times, and we haven't really addressed, like you have never convinced me that he's wrong either. Like we just kind of, and I guess that's what's bothering me. I just want to, let's go through some of these. I don't know, I mean, do we have to do that in this setting? Do we have those special meetings, or just, maybe it's just maybe I need to meet with somebody and I need to have the education? But I'm watching Hunter get kind of, and I'm not sure I agree with the way that we're presenting, but I also don't want to see things what the way that we need to be looking at it, if we do need to be looking at it. And I'm experienced enough that I'm not sure where that line is.
My goal is just to have the board heads up, address these things. There's alternative solutions that are reasonable for the district, then they go ahead and execute. But when you're not looking at major, major financial issues and understanding the transparency that is needed for all these guys back here and understanding why their taxes are having to go up and saying, okay, we've got this amount of money we have to spend here and this amount of money we have to spend here. Here are the plans that have been put in place. This is how they're going to be executed, and this is how they're going to be paid for. I don't think that's really beyond the scope of the board.
Don, you have a comment?
Yeah, I think it would be good. Hunter brought up the $924,000 to Heidi. Heidi came to me, we discussed it, we called the auditor. Heidi is online. If you would like for her to explain it, we can bring her on the screen.
Hunter, you feel comfortable with that?
Sure. I mean, we're only after one thing. What the heck's going on?
Bring Heidi on.
Heidi?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep.
Hi. Okay. Yes, I've been listening to this online, and Hunter, like you, I don't live in the community. So I'm remoting in from Kaiser. Couple things I'd like to address is listening to, I'm just going to call it for what it is, the word salad. I want to point out that Hunter, you made a comment that those emails and the communications were from Don Clements. Those communications were directly with you and I. Mr. Clements was not on the communications. I continue to continuously have to add Ms. Rickard to the communications because she's our public information person. When you were emailing me, one of the comments that you made was you wanted to reflect the actual debt. That was my response, is that we did pay the debt. In regards to the data entry, and as I've spoken with our auditors, when the setup is done at the beginning of the year in our financial system, this was done previous to me. The person put it in the wrong line item. So it did look as though a line item was overexpensed, when in fact, we were paying our bills and our debt exactly how the budget was approved and adopted. So in speaking with that, that is why the auditors have said there is no need for any amendments.
So they're retracting the advisory.
There is no retraction. You cannot go back into what has previously occurred because it did what it did. If I were to go back and try to change the data entry setup, then that would throw everything out of whack. And I'm just going to point out that, Hunter, I have offered to you to come in for clarification and communications, because when you speak words, they mean one thing sometimes to you, and when you're using the language of my work, they don't always mesh. And in previous communications with you in person, you have taken and twisted what I have said, and I don't appreciate that. And honestly, as an employee, I don't feel comfortable speaking with you without another person present.
Could you cite where I have twisted your words?
When you came in during pickleball time and you were asking some questions and I would respond, you would restate it. And I said, no, that's not what I said. This is what I said, and would try to explain it to you. And you got, I don't remember the exact, because that was, wow, quite a while ago, over 9 months, but it was enough to put me at ill ease. And again, you misspoke tonight when you said those communications were from Dawn, that they were not from me. And I think the public and everyone there needs to hear that that was wrong information that you spoke in a public forum.
I was not, yes, I said they weren't from you, no doubt about it.
And yet they were.
I was saying that they essentially were coming from your boss after you had communicated with me.
Those were my communications directly to you, Hunter. They were not from Mr. Clements.
Okay,
And again, I think people need to be aware that you're not always factual with your information. That's my observation from listening to you speak. And listening tonight, you're somewhat cherry picking your data. When someone talked about tax rates from other, you stopped, you didn't want to hear that. And so again, from my perspective, it's difficult to hear.
so just to dwell on that for a small moment, tax rates from others generate income to who those others are. I don't think we disagreed on that. And my presentation here didn't deal with the tax rates. It dealt with the accumulation of cash, capital, in these operating accounts that you have, which operating accounts are necessary. And that overaccumulation compared to other municipal agencies that are parks and recreation districts. That was the only comparison I made. I'm not making any remarks on your taxes. I did make a remark on, I said, did you ask the district, i.e. the board asked the district, do you need it? Because looking at your books, it looks like you have a ton of cash.
Don, you have a comment?
Our ending balances are high. Hunter is correct. They're high for a reason. The reason is we don't want to pay interest when we borrow money. Other districts go out, borrow the money, and pay the interest. We try to look ahead, we try to plan, we try to serve the community the best that we can. We have major problems right now, whereby this year, if you notice, the capital outlay in the budget was extremely high because we have a lot of projects. Those projects will take probably 3 years to complete. I'd say probably. What you do is, when you budget something by law, you're not allowed to spend any more than you budget. If you budget too short, you then have to go back through a process, call the budget committee back together, have the budget committee go through it, do all of that process, which is a long process, takes a lot of people's time. We've tried over the years to do that in the most reliable way that we can. I've been in the district for 30-something years. If you notice in the budget, some of my staff make almost as much as I do. I haven't taken an increase because I care about this community. I've lived here for 30-something years. And I have given my best. Evidently, it's not good enough for some people. I respect that. I can live with that. But I will do everything in my power to fight anyone that tries to destroy this district and the credibility and the things that these people that work for this district has done for 30-something years. They've worked their butt off for little of nothing. And I don't appreciate people who put them down. You can put me down, all you want.
I don't know if anybody's said any word about another staff member, any word.
You know, we've gone for almost an hour here. So there may be other people that want to talk. If they're talking about the same thing.
You gave up all your time, right?
Yeah, you gave up all your time right there, but if there's something else you'd like to talk about.
That's a nice face.
Why the
Go ahead, like
cattiness?
Devil's like-
Why, I'm not,
Steve?
I wanna speak.
It was a rude face.
It's in public forum.
He's sitting here and just keeps directing stuff at me, and if you just keep wanting to, that's fine, Steve. I can look at you too.
Lisa, you don't even know me.
I
I'm
just-
paying rent,
so
I'm living in your head for rent free apparently. You just keep flipping your hair and you might as well just give me the bird. The way, you're on camp, you're
You
representing.
know, I don't want to go there. I really don't. I want to be civil. And I know you can be because I know you, so let's just
She's a board member.
skilled, I get that.
She shouldn't be throwing eye rolls, making smirks at someone sitting here. Ever. So, I'm Steve Paulson. I'm here tonight. Hunter took up an hour. It was already made, he doesn't live here. The reason these people have shown up is the same reason I stood up in front of you in October and November. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your service. I said change was coming. By the grace of God, we got our county changed, our school board, our mayor, thank God, and the city council. And next up is May 16th with the district. No one says a word about any employees. I give props to them regularly, and I'm a paying member and citizen of this town for almost 9 years, Lisa. So with all due respect, you don't know me. So for you to sit there, smirk at me, make faces at me, all these things, it's totally inappropriate. But I'm here to tell you, thank you for your service. The people show up in numbers because they want change. Gail's on an island. She's been by herself. Listen, help is coming and help is on the way, okay? So we just ask that you look at the numbers, and this is a small representation of our entire community that is tired of the same thing, okay? So listen to your citizens. We've given you the chance to make changes. Change is coming. It's coming.
Okay? Anyone else?
Yeah, I'm Beth Kaiser. I find the action of some of these board members offensive and unprofessional. Sounds like there's some unethical things going on here. And it sounds like you owe us the service of finding someone who can do your accounting and show you exactly what's happening to our money, because it's our money, not yours. And it feels like you're wasting our money. So I would like some oversight into the accounting and make sure that it's being done correctly.
Thank you. I'm gonna give you the gavel back when we're done.
This item is approval of bridge contract for the bypass. Casey or Don, you wanna update us on that?
Others on, what about others? On
We
the-
did that, I think he just asked and nobody said anything.
Did I miss anybody else? I don't mean to if I did. Okay, we're good to go? All right. Thank you.
So, bridge contract.
Case.
We put out an RFP for construction manager, general contractor for the Newburgh Dundee bypass trail. We've been in contact with ODOT. They're, like Hunter said, there's a bit of a cost to that. And ODOT's willing to work with us. So we put the contract for the RFP out in March and got responses back. We have done a review and scoring and interviews. There were 3 contractors submitted proposals, Call Construction, Prospect Construction out of Seattle, Golf was out of Vancouver, and Emery and Sons out of Salem. They know what the cost is of, they were given what we have left of the grant, and we're gonna do as much as we can with that money. So we asked for their opinions on value engineering and things in the RFP that we mentioned. The scoring is in the board packet. The Emery and Sons was the highest scoring RFP submitted, and I would like to recommend that they get the notice of intent to proceed with the CMGC contract.
Could I request information that's due from government regulations regarding this, which is, you supplied the name of the winning bidder, certainly not objecting to that, but they're winning bid about
It was,
it. And this is for the complete project?
No, when you say complete project, can you kind of go over what they'd be doing?
they're going to build the bridge and the access from Industrial up to 11th Street.
Okay,
Within the Newburgh city limits.
that's fine. Just wondered what the price was.
They were given $2 million.
They're given a not to exceed on a
Not to
CMGC.
exceed.
Okay, so it's $2 million plus whatever you spent so far. Is the total cost of the project.
Yeah, and we received a grant for $2.6 million.
What are the SBC fees gonna pay for this? Why wouldn't they pay for that?
They are paying a lot of it. We have a grant from ODOT for 1.8 million. So we're gonna use our SDCs and we're gonna use ODOT's money, and that's the wisest thing to do for the taxpayers.
So while we're on wisest thing to do for the taxpayers, I think that's a good segue for me to submit my public comment, am I right?
Could you stand just so we can hear you better, please?
I'm Lindsay Bershauer, I'm the chair of the Yamhill County Board of Commissioners. And it's very telling to me that you're talking about approving a contract for a bridge or a trail when you don't actually have land use authority to build the trail, because you can't build it on county land. We've been over this multiple times. I'm not here to talk about the LUBA thing, I'm not allowed to, it could come back to the county. But it's convenient that the bridge is within the city limits because you may have authority to do it there, but CPRD does not have authority to expand the trail. So this is a repeat of the Yamhill West Sider Trail when the county tried to build the bridge first. And then was told that we can continue to build the trail. And then we had to pay the grants back, which is very expensive. This was all before I was there. So when we're talking about accountability and transparency, the best thing for taxpayers, I find it shocking that CPRD would make this decision.
Amen.
Just for everyone's information, the continuation of the trail within Yamhill County is also within the ODOT right of way. So it's not in the agricultural land or anything like that, it's in the right of way. So I just want to be clear on that. But Lindsay, I really appreciate
I'm
you
gonna be clear on the right of way. So I actually approved the bypass overlay and the zoning that's allowed within the bypass overlay, and the trail is not allowed in it.
Not yet.
What did you say?
Go ahead.
Not yet.
I'm not sure yet.
Oh,
That would be a
not
LUBA
yet.
question later on,
That's what you said.
if we have to go there.
Oh, okay, not yet. Yeah, it hasn't come back to us, and I don't
Right.
anticipate this board making that decision.
Thank
so.
Casey, did you have something else you want to say?
So
Nope.
are you moving forward with that then? I'm lost in it now with all
I
of
asked
this.
the board for approval to
So you're voting to move forward with this project?
agree.
We're still talking.
But we haven't got there yet.
Oh,
We keep getting interrupted.
Oh, Bart showed up.
You still have a $25 alternative. When I was driving down 9th Street and 11th Street, I have to look up on the corners, it says Winooski Trail. My God, the board is finally coming to its senses. And the last sign I saw was right in front of the Winooski Bridge, there's a Winooski Trail sign. And I asked myself, what is it that this bridge, which crosses the same physical creeks, the whole 9 yards, fully ADA compliant, built, beautiful artwork on the side to keep people from jumping off the bridge. What is it doesn't supply that the new bridge supplies? Do you want to answer that? What does it supply? The new bridge compared to what's there. Put a sign on the other side, man, you're done. And no offense to the commissioners, but you just got a green light when you do that. Those bridges aren't built.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Thank you.
Anything else, Casey? Okay. Discussion from the board. Hi, Bart. Okay. Staff has recommended approval of this contract. You don't care to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the contract. As written.
Oh, I will second.
I'm voting no.
I haven't called for the vote yet. Moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Right, those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, those opposed? Motion passes. Approval of the appeal of the county's decision to Luba involving the Ewing Young Park Bridge. Casey or Don? Any staff report on that?
Yeah, I will speak to that. Ewing Young has had a master plan completed since 2018, and this skate park was down there prior to, and the BMX track and the trails we've worked on over the past probably 7, 8, 10 years, Jim. We've put a lot of time and effort into that park, and we get comments all the time. We could have larger events, larger full-scale disc golf events down there if we had expanded it. Back in, I think the original piece of property was purchased in 1966, a very small piece, and then added parcels along the way. Some were donated from Smurfit, some were purchased outright. The parcel we're looking at is approximately 11 acres out of a 23-acre parcel. Half of it's in the city limits, half of it's in the county outside the UGB. The Chehalis Creek splits the property. And we're looking to gain access for park improvements. The county has deemed it a transportation facility, and it probably goes back to the Amhelis Trail. We are not proposing a roadway or a trail that goes anywhere but our property and is contained within the park. And we feel that it's not farmable land. It's not accessible by us for maintenance, and we think the public should have access to their property. So that there are 3 things you can do. You can appeal to LUBA, which is the Land Use Board of Appeals, and have them determine whether that's park improvements is an approved use, and we are pretty sure it is. That could take 5 to 6 months, and will cost approximately $300 for an application, and then whatever attorney's costs are associated with that. Could be, I don't know, $30,000. Second thing you could do is start the annexation process with the city of Newburgh. That will take probably years to do and a lot more money. Or you could wait for Yamhill County to amend their zoning codes to align with the Oregon land use, as suggested by the county by LUBA in 2018. So I'm here to request a response from the board as to which way you would like me to proceed.
Okay, so to be clear, we're trying to build a bridge inside our own park.
Going where?
Inside our own park, to our property. To access our property. Just loops our property.
So then maintenance can reach it.
Yeah, because they can't get there now.
So not just maintenance, but disc golfers, people that walk the trails.
We got a question?
I think you need to, and I would actually encourage the board to go down there and walk the park, okay?
Been down there lots.
I'm sure you have, okay? And I asked Casey and Don in the meeting, I said, how come this is never considered for campground? You got lots of entertainment anyway. And their answer was, it's too wet, okay? And I walked down there and found out, yeah, it's too wet out there. They were telling the truth, it's too wet on both sides of that creek. The other side's a swamp. Now, he spent $146,000 so far to get it designed and permitted and so forth. The design shows that they had to do a lot of placement of the bridge because of water. I mean, it's right there in the hydrology. You look across or you walk across, you're gonna find it's basically a swamp. Now, the park could have used tiling to improve the disc golf. Disc golf's fallen off there 30%. For some reason, it has. 25% in Ewing Park and 30%. According to the statistics that were provided from the agencies that monitor that stuff. I would have thought, and you know, you could improve the parking lot, maybe restrooms, whatever. I would think those things would be of more apparent value to people using the park, dry out the existing park if possible. I don't know if it's possible. I have some guys that do field tiling down there for farmers, I can tell you. And make it usable. And you wouldn't have to get into a large expense to achieve a lot of what you're trying to do, make a larger area available. I don't think that's unreasonable.
Sir,
Thank you.
Mark Hogarth. I took the gentleman on the swamp run. I live there. I know exactly what that water is like. It is underwater 8.5 months of the year, non-functional. Yeah, you could probably build a path to spend $500,000, $400,000, $200,000, whatever it is, on a bridge to nowhere. Your long-term plan is to make that a walking path to connect, which makes it a traveling path, which is will fail in Yuba. But bottom line is, you guys are throwing money away for nothing. I have been down in that, I've been dealing with that mess down there for 15 years. I clean it up as much as I can, and I don't lose my John Deere in it. It's a worthless piece of land. You want to build a park on swamp, find some flat ground above water level. But to spend $300,000, $250,000 on a bridge, so someone could walk up 200 acres. If you got money to throw away like that, find something better to do. Build a nice stadium, build a THBRD, build a system like theirs. But seriously, you're gonna throw $250,000 away on a bridge to nowhere? I mean, it's crazy. I don't understand why you're even thinking about it. It's a waste of money. No matter who's getting paid for it.
So I went to the commissioners meeting and listened to what they had to say, and you were sitting right behind me. It was good to meet you.
Yeah.
And after what you said there, I took that to heart. I said, you know, I want to make sure that this land is usable for the district to use. I thought that was important. So I asked Don, either Don or Casey, but they both went and checked out the land. And Casey, you talked to me the other day, and what did you find on the land when you walked? And you walked down there in pouring rain. Is that right?
Yeah, we were ankle deep in mud, and it's
pretty-
like that until June.
So your experience was?
I didn't find it any worse than some of the areas on the golf course.
That doesn't make it. Why would you build on a swampland? I mean, that's the whole point. It's
We play golf on that.
on top of that.
So
the nature.
my question is, walking paths can be built down there, disc golf can go over there and play, or not?
Yes, it's no wetter than the rest of the park.
So you're saying,
The rest of the park
so,
is swamp.
I don't know if you guys, anybody here has actually walked that trail, but it is walkable year round, even in the middle of the winter when it's pouring rain.
Yeah.
And
trail on
the
that
other
side.
side of the creek is the same, is just the same. And it's not, I'm sure there's mud out there right now, but we have a great trail crew.
Are there pictures or videos in there?
We don't have access to the property most of the time. You have to go over the creek to get to the property right now. So we have property that is
Why did you buy it
inaccessible.
Yeah, shouldn't have bought it.
It was part of a 23-acre parcel.
And then.
They don't.
The city did not, when they annexed property in from the city did not want to provide utilities to the lot, so they did not include it in the annexation.
I just had a question.
Yes,
So I was,
sorry.
oh, sorry.
I know you are, but
Dawn Hanson.
thank you.
I was looking at the master plan for the course, and it looks like there is an intended,
Sorry, which course?
or sorry, not course, the trail, or the park we're talking about, Ewing Young Park. And it looks like at the northwest side and then the southeast side, there is an intended connection point to the heritage trail system. So if that's the case, wouldn't that make all the trails within the park connected to a trail system and make that a transportation facility?
Yes.
Well, no, but if you're using the land as a park and you're playing disc golf and you have those things and then you have
You're
the
saying
trails on
but all the
it.
trails are connected at that point. That's a trail.
I don't understand why there's so much hate for
For trails.
parks and trails.
I'm just trying
I mean, that's our job, is to provide recreational facilities
It's the waste
and
of
trails.
money.
Yes.
You're talking $300,000 for a bridge to 11 acres that is now beautiful wildlife habitat, undisturbed, except for the homeless. You have no way to monitor their safety because guess what? That's not in the city's purview because it's not their property, so they're not gonna respond. We've already got wild campers down there. Last summer, we had the cops show up, leave notes on our door saying, hey, we're trying to get through your property to go down and put some fires out. We were flat out told, we'll get to it. And Yamhill County's response is scary as heck. It could be an hour and a half before they show up. And what does it get us? $300,000 for a bridge to go do what? Play disc golf 2 months out of the year?
You can play all year long.
Not down there.
Yes,
Yes, you can.
I
No.
play disc golf. You can.
Not on our side, not on our side. It is underwater all the way until June, July. I know, because I can't mow my yard, and some parts of my yard are underwater that late.
Like inches?
And I'm above it, so everything below it is gonna be wetter longer.
We did just fine on the side of the creek where we have access, because people can use that year round. Where we haven't developed on the opposite side, I'm sure it's not usable right now, but it will be.
As long as you backfill it, maybe 20 feet, but that's about it. You fill in all that land.
The reason I had the question was because if that's the intent of the park, it feels really disingenuous for you to say it's a park improvement when it looks like a transportation facility. Because it's a trail, connecting other trails.
Connecting trails is
It's your
part of the
master
magical
plan.
thing about trails, is it makes the park more usable, so the people coming from Dundee.
Then why are you telling us it's not what it is?
Yeah, I don't, I think it's a matter of semantics. You call it a transportation facility. It's a park and a trail, and an extension of a trail.
Bart, you take objective people, citizens that are objective, and you take that and you make the leap to, I don't know why there's so much hate for trails. You got people that live there that have walked it, they've lived it in knee deep, and you make the line of objection to why hating on the trails? How do you make those leaps? How can you make those leaps?
And the thing is, the biggest problem is,
Hate?
it's just a highway from Newburgh to Dundee. I mean, I had people come through my property when the creek was low, and start walking through my my backyard, carrying groceries. I'm going like, what? Where the hell did you guys, oh, we crossed the creek. You put a bridge there, and that's gonna be a highway to our backyards. And then that's the big thing, is the safety. What are you gonna do about that when, the county's not gonna show up for 30 to an hour and a half? I mean, middle of the day, my wife, who had Alzheimer's, disappeared on me. Took the county 40 minutes to show up in the middle of the day. Now, at 2 o'clock in the morning, when we got our lovely homeless going through on the bridges, what are you gonna do about that safety factor? No, call someone, see if they care, at 2:30 in the morning. It's just a waste of money. I can't believe anybody even want to go there with that.
Okay, we have a staff recommendation to appeal the county decision to Luba. That's what the issue before us is. Is there any other discussion from the board
That's
on
the way to get
that?
a trail.
Okay, ma'am, if you're gonna speak, which you have the perfect right to, you need to identify yourself. You can't just keep sniping constantly. No, those are the rules for any governmental agency. When you speak, you have to identify yourself. That's all I'm asking. Okay? So,
I move that we approve the appealing the county's decision to move the Ewing Young Park Bridge.
is there a second?
I'm not ready to have a second, but I have maybe discussion. Maybe I'll wait and see if there's a second first.
Robert's rules of orders, we have to have a second to have discussion, otherwise the motion dies. Okay, not hearing a second, we'll move on.
Well, there's another option. And that was to work with the city on bringing that into.
We can talk about that at another meeting.
Wasn't that one of the options that?
I thought it gave us 3 options.
I did give you 3 options.
I talked with the attorney, and he said to go through the process would cost at least 10 times what the appeal would be. They feel pretty certain that the appeal will be that will be upheld. He felt, again, with our legal counsel, that the best thing for the board to do would be to go with the appeal rather than the annexation.
Follow-up question for Superintendent?
Sure.
Yeah, my assumption is it's likely that even with appeals from the Land Use Board of Appeals, likely the county commissioners would overturn regardless of sending it back.
Well, Luba makes that decision.
Well, no, Luba makes a decision that they have to reconsider. They don't, if I understand it correctly, they don't actually approve or deny it, they just remand. And then it's back where it started. Is that?
That's not what I understand.
Is there a time frame in which you have to?
We have until, I think it's 21 days after May 4th. So you need to make a decision soon. Otherwise, you can't appeal it to Luba.
If you
21
like,
days after May 4th.
Yeah, because it's not a written document yet.
Okay. So,
Commissioner
when's our next
Turner.
board meeting?
I think it's the
yeah, it's the day. I think
The day too late?
yeah.
I will
Okay,
second.
'cause I would like to,
I will second Director Rogers' motion.
I'd like to hear from John, frankly.
It's the same, well, but you'd have to do it, by the time we would have our meeting, it would be.
You seconded?
Yes.
I have a question, and I'd like to get an answer, because I hear that we're not allowed to have certain things. I heard this at the commissioners meeting, and I respect Mr. Friday, the planner there, very much, and appreciate his information. But with that said, I would like to, and I've heard about the transportation corridors and all that, and things like that. I'd like to find out from Luba exactly what is, and if it is legal, and if it's legal for us to do that, then we know. And if it's not, then we know. And that's what I'd like to do. So that's why I'd like to move ahead. Because I want to find out about not just this project, but other projects that we may have that we may be affected by the same thing. So that was all I had to say about that. So,
I have,
Are you fidgeting or you?
I know I have a comment.
Okay.
It seems to me that, did this whole room show up? I mean, obviously on a lot of issues. Is there anybody here in favor of this trail bridge? We have a room full of people who showed up not in favor of it, and we're trying to figure out ways around that. That's the comment.
Any other discussion? So it's been moved and seconded to move forward with the appeal to LUBA. The appeal of the county decision to LUBA.
Excuse me?
It has been moved and seconded to, I misspoke, I'm sorry. It's been moved and seconded to move forward with an appeal to LUBA of the county's decision, period. There's no other discussion. Those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed?
Opposed.
Motion carries. At least get some answers from LUBA. Okay. Master plan contract, Riley Park. It's Dawn or Jason?
It's me.
Okay.
We submitted RFQ back in February and we received those back when I had members of the staff, members of the community evaluate those RFQs. And we allowed all of those people that were in the RFQs to submit for RFP for the master plan for Riley Park. Because that's what the residents and that's what the board wanted.
There were 4, correct?
There was 4, Walker Macy, Cameron McCarthy, Greenworks, and NV5. And of the 4 that we asked to submit the RFP, we received 2. They couldn't, for whatever reason, didn't submit. And we received 1 from Cameron McCarthy and 1 from NV5. The total dollar figure is in the board packet there. I believe one was, Cameron McCarthy's was $137,000. And NV5 was, I want to say 53, but I can't remember off the top of my head.
53, 933.
And the timeline was 8 months for NV5 and approximately 1 year for Cameron McCarthy. So I would recommend that we use NV5 for the master plan for the project for Riley Park.
Okay.
Yes,
Yes,
Jim.
Jim.
Yeah, so Dana, you said it on those?
On the RFQ, Hope and I did, along with Ryan.
Okay, and you,
And we ranked all 4 of them, and then, as a group, like Casey said, we decided to go back and ask them for, an RFQ to present that. And then, that's what I heard, and Casey talked about how only 2 of them submitted those RFQs, so. And the one that, I think our number 1 pick is one of those that backed out. And they were the ones that had kind of a more broad take on master plan from horse trails to bicycle trails. So it's 2 technical.
But we can stipulate more of what we want. I mean, because we do have a lot more information now, and we can apply that to NV5 as well. So we can take Walker Macy's submission and kind of use that.
I appreciate you working with Casey on this though, to make it the best we can up there, so.
No, I was happy to be included. So I did have one question, sorry, Dana Kemp. So Casey, if it is approved tonight for the master plan, how long before they get started and what, I didn't see what the timeline was as far as the master plan.
I can send a letter of intent tomorrow. And then there's a 7-day waiting period for any protests or any, and then we can sign an agreement. So within 2 weeks, possibly.
And then we would probably, you'd be able to see the entire RFP that they submitted.
Yeah. I can give that to you now, but I didn't want to, someone asked for it, one of the, probably shouldn't, until it's final.
I would wait till they sign.
Yeah.
And it is, if that would be somewhere, is there a
It's
place
basically,
on the website
I'm
you
gonna
could
tell you
post it?
this, Dana, it's basically the same as the RFQ they submitted. but with the time guideline, a calendar, and a cost. Because those are really the only two things other than what we asked for.
And I would just suggest that there's somewhere that you can, that Pat can put it on your website, because Ryan and I have started, a group of equestrians, and they're always asking, what are the documents, where are they? So if there's some place that we can post and we can direct those folks to that
Sure.
master plan, that would be helpful. I'm sure for Ryan, for the right folks too. Thank you.
I have a question on that, Casey.
Yep.
Ryan Reinhofer. Say that that's approved, say you give the letter, say it's posted, and it's all encompassing of what the master plan is intended to be. What is the public's input, or changes or improvements? What's that time frame look like, and how's that process?
Well, that all gets, there's gonna be at least 3 public meetings and probably some outreach from us as well during that process. And the master plan will be probably amended at least 3 different times to reflect comments from those meetings. So there's still a lot to go. We want to keep you guys informed so that everyone has, we already know what Bob and Crystal Riley wanted, but we do know that there's people up there that, want to keep that history or presence up there. So we're not just going to ignore everything that's happened or the history. So.
Of keeping it equestrian?
Yeah.
Okay.
But their hope was to provide equestrian, walkers, bikes, so we'll figure all that out. Yep.
Can I ask one more question?
Sure.
I just want to, I missed the last meeting, so I was just wondering what the status of the signs. Because you guys had approved the signage for the park.
I think
Yeah, I just wondered
Brian's
where we
on
were at.
vacation this week, but I know that some signs were delivered up there. And I don't know how many got installed, but I know they're working on that.
I know one sign's been installed that I've seen,
Okay.
that says no cyclists, no motorized vehicles.
Yeah.
That's the only one that I've seen.
And then, Kat's been working on some maps that kind of divide the park. Those will be coming out pretty quick, and we're getting ready. I mean, it is spring.
Yeah, so is the division, is that a done deal now? Is that?
For right now, until we get the master plan done and get everything sorted out, yes.
Okay, so then that'll be something that's open to discussion over the next 3 meetings, as you mentioned before.
Correct.
And then, do you have an opening date? I know that I've seen quite a few cyclists.
Well, it could rain tomorrow.
That's true, it could also be 85 degrees tomorrow, which I think it's gonna be.
We don't post an opening date because we don't know for sure, and it changes every year.
I think we
Well,
asked that question because Ryan and I have been walking down the trails and passed by bicyclists. And as we said,
Well, they shouldn't be
the
open.
park is closed, and we talked to Russ about it.
Yeah.
And I just think, anyway, just to be open about, I live right there, so I see them going by.
Me too.
With their bikes. So maybe we should think about doing something down at the farmhouse, at the head of the trail, to say if the trails are closed, maybe it's a bigger sign than what's there.
Yeah, it sounds like a good idea.
Yep. We'll take that.
Yeah, we appreciate that.
Thank you.
It shouldn't be out there, so. But we need to do a better job of communicating that, so.
I was up there walking and ran, saw some bikers that said, hey, you kids need to leave. And, they were very courteous, and they did. So they said, well, the park says open. The park says open in the spring. And I said, well, it's pretty wet. You guys don't need to be here. So they were good. Yeah, I think bigger signs and getting someone out there and controlling it would be good.
Even a rope across the entrance so you can't ride your bike in would be great.
Just call me,
Okay.
okay?
I know where you're at.
You live right there. You see more than I do. No,
I volunteer to put up a chain. I live right there. I will do it, not a problem.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So will you restate the, where were we?
Yes. I'd like to have the board approve the contractor for the master plan of the bottom, Crystal Riley Park.
With
ND5.
Thank you. With staff recommendation, do we have a motion?
I'll move that we approve the contract with master plan for NP5.
Okay, a second?
A second.
Moving second, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Rennie Field,
Real fast. I need to make a statement regarding camera system. Right now, we're just on you guys due to the fact that the camera system just crashed. So
okay,
that's what the color bars were earlier, just so there's no question about what happened.
all right. Thank you, Richard.
Rennie Field.
Rennie Field,
We've been
doesn't
working.
say 50, it says 10.
Last board meeting, we took the recommended approach from the board, from our board, to back to their superintendent in regards to the request for 100-year lease on the property and with nothing less than 50 years. We got 50 years, so we're satisfied with that. There was a couple amendments to the contract, and we want to make sure that the plan that we submit to them shows the pickleball courts that we're talking about, the field that we're talking about, the track, all the things that we will commit to, or that thing, without showing, new baseball fields and things that we may get involved with, but we're not going to commit to a timeline on those right now. So we're meeting with the engineers on Tuesday, and we'll come up with that, and then we'll get the contract finalized between the two attorneys, because that's who's working on those. And that's when you guys as a board and the school board need to get together and agree to that contract. So that's where that's at.
Yes.
So is the contract that you submitted in the board packet the same as it was last month?
I
Because
think it's got the changes in it. We're
it still
waiting for
says
the.
10. Still says 10, and then at the very end, it says this contract is invalid in 2028, which is only 5
Okay,
years, so.
well, we've got it changed, that's right.
Okay.
And then we just have some documents that, sorry about that. So it has been changed, and John's kind of approved what we're doing so that we're not making mistakes. It seems like a really long contract compared to what the one John gave him, but basically says the same thing, so.
So we'll be looking maybe at the final in May.
Well, that's between you as a board and the school district board to come together to do something, to make an agreement. So I don't know how we're gonna do that, but we will.
Okay.
Brief question, is the matching grant still in?
What's that?
So the matching grant is still there, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
$750,000 is still there.
So the
We are putting
board's,
6 pickleball courts there.
so the board's information, I gave you the rough drawing. We'll meet with AKS and get more detailed type drawing. If you notice, the pickleball courts are right here. We'll put the restroom and concession area either here or over here. It depends on where it fits best and where the utilities and all of that is. But we know that it'll be in this area or this area. So the reason for moving the pickleball court from here to here is the noise factor. if you remember, like Oswego, I had a lot of problems. I feel that by moving it there, we eliminate that, and it's far enough away, we should not have any problems with that. It's far enough from the neighborhoods over here and that way. So that, but the other thing is these fields will be lit. We'll look at lighting those fields. There'll be 4 poles and we'll light the fields. I talked with Julie. The advantage to lighting the fields is right now, this will serve the community probably for the next 20 years. But eventually, as the community grows, we'll have to come down here and build additional fields. But if we don't like this, we may have to build the fields in 20 years. And by doing this, we'll be better off putting the lights. LED, the cost of LED lighting has just dropped tremendously. Metal halide was what most lighting was used. That's all I've ever used, all of my life, but LED is much better, and the cost of operation has gone way down. So it would be wise to do that.
Are we lighting the pickleball courts too?
It's,
Well,
no.
there'll be power around, so that can be added later, or, you know, we're gonna leave things open that way, because, you know, I don't think technically you want to play pickleball at night when people are trying to go to bed or outside doing things, so we'll have to look at that as well.
When you come in, Don, to answer your question, when you lay or put this turf in, we've got to make sure that we have all the underground done. That is, the lines run with the conduit. We'll put conduit to the pickleball courts so that they may be lit at a future date, or we may put a cover over it and then light them that way. So
I wasn't suggesting to be lit 24/7. I mean, I grew up playing tennis, you know, the courts at Forest Grove High School, where, you know, you could go, if you were playing, you flip the switch, you could turn the lights on, but there was a timer, they went off at 10 o'clock.
To go ahead while we're out there and to do it, to put the conduit in and run that stuff is smart, because you don't have to come back, dig up, tear up. And so we try to do all that. As a matter of fact, we'll probably run conduit down here and end it. An example, when the school district built the stadium there, which most people don't know, we built that stadium at the high school. When they did that road, we ran conduit under the road. Later on, I went out there and the school had people out there and they were gonna tear the road up. And Jim remembers, I said, why are you tearing up the road? Well, we got to run juice. Well, we had the contractor, when he was out here, put the conduit, it's right here. And they were able not to tear it up, but to do it. At some of our parks, Jim knows that we've always, along our paths, put conduit up underneath so that later on we can run utilities and those things. It's cheap.
It just makes sense to have the pickleball courts be light ready, if nothing else.
Yes.
Sure.
Mike Quinlan, president of Newburgh Pickleball Club, live nearby. I like the idea that you thought ahead of moving to an area that's not going to be considered noisy. They've done some sound studies on how much noise a pickleball makes, and it's really not that much. I know a lot of people that live in Oswego and they were pretty much shocked that played in those courts. And, but anyway, the idea of, with our weather, when I tell you about a good event we had recently, basically the idea of having covered lit courts, because so much of the year we don't have access to the pickleball courts. The aquatic center has some access, but it's a different floor surface, and we're competing with basketball players at the same time. So I like the idea that you thought ahead to locate it in a spot where there's least likelihood to have neighbors complaining in the future as it's built up. So that was wise, and I like the idea that conduit's going to be there. Much as I wish it would be more than 6 courts initially, because I want to draw. We've talked about this before in terms of economic impact, positive to the community.
Well, this is not the end all. We're still talking to the school district about putting courts in Dundee on the new block. At least gets us started.
We would like to be, the club and the advisory committee would like to be at least involved in all of that, because we haven't been at all. And you'll see in Michael's presentation, because of the work that Brian did on the courts and so forth, we're filling 12 courts today for events.
Jim?
Yeah, I didn't know if we want to do an audiometry test out there just to see how far that sound travels. I just want to make sure that we're not going to run into issues later on. I know you're shaking your head, but I'm just kind of going, you've heard so much in the news about this. I really want to get pickleball courts here. I just want to make sure that we're meeting everybody's needs. And Don, I don't know if we would be looking at, let's say we build those pickleball courts there, which is a start, and then we end up enclosing it later. Is that a possibility, working with the school district on that? Okay.
We
just want to make sure we're able to do that.
Yes. We told them at the joint meetings, and when you guys sign it with the agreement, this will be made part of the agreement. Will be an exhibit that already has that on with the explanation.
Is there room here to put more courts if the demand dictates?
We're gonna find that out Tuesday.
I doubt it. I did a preliminary, I thought maybe I would look at putting 12 courts, 2 and 2. I don't think there's room, but I'll check with AKS, and I did some drawings. The reason what I didn't want to do was take down the trees. I wanted to go enough from the trees to provide some shade and those type things. And so I'll have to, the canopy of the trees come out. I don't think there's enough room there. We could go towards the road, but we get closer to the neighborhood. If it's enclosed, it may cut the noise down, but I don't know that. Yeah.
Just for some metrics for the board, 4 tennis courts are the same space as 12 pickleball courts. When you want, just figure out what it's going to be. That's what we did in Jacob. Yeah, so that's the size we're done with.
Somebody just needs to invent a quiet pickleball.
Well, I also like to, make sure that we involve, and I know you will, Casey, the folks with pickleball. We're developing it, designing it, doing it. I think that's important to do that. And if we can go for more courts, great. If we can't, let's get 6, but let's get it.
I am thrilled that we're actually moving ahead on pickleball. So I hesitate saying this, but have we really verified that the neighborhood is okay with the setback?
We haven't, I don't think anybody's talked to
Like,
them.
do the neighbors even know this is going in, or are we?
I don't even think they know it's a conversation.
That's gonna
does
come
concern
up,
me.
that's gonna come up during the permitting.
we had to go through a permitting process with all of this. And the city of Newburgh is aware, and we told them, and we'll have to go through the process.
Okay. Reports and comments from board members. Director Bezow. Director McMaster.
I have something a little different that I want to share tonight. That I know that today that it's been a tough night with people's concerns and so on and so forth. But I want to thank our staff, our aquatic staff. Back on March 28th, we had a code red, a person that went to the bottom of the pool. The lifeguard was there, brought him up. They took him to the hospital. He's okay. The father thanked us. So our employees that work in the district, we're not only developing things, but we're also saving lives. And I just want to thank Wendy for the job they do out there, and for people to understand that there's a lot of different puzzle pieces to this park district. And anyway, thank you staff. Appreciate it. All right.
Okay. Have nothing, Lisa? All right.
Yes.
Okay. Casey, updates on projects that you haven't already updated us on.
Sandra State Park, our final application for the Land and Water Conservation Grant went into the national park. So waiting on confirmation of that. Variance parking coming up at the cultural center. There's a hearing on May the 8th.
Hang on a sec.
So on the Sanders Park one,
Yeah.
I think Hunter had a good point earlier,
Yeah.
and is this an opportunity for us to be using the SDCs to
Yes.
get that part going, because it is taking quite a bit of time.
Yes, we are going to use, and we can use more, to do $340,000 in SDCs. We're gonna get 175 from the local government grant program, and we're gonna get 545,000 from the Land and Water Conservation.
How long will that grant, is it,
This is not gonna be a short project. The whole project costs, the estimate on the cost was $10.5 million.
oh, so this is just the first?
This is the first phase, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's, we've got road improvements to do. There's lots of stuff to do.
Okay, thank you.
Like I said, variance for the cultural center with the buildup of the theater and the top floor. They're gonna ask for more parking. Apparently they were down there. The city did a kind of a impromptu study during the Camellia Fest, and there was 500 or 600 people around that building. Hopefully that went well. And so the hearing, I believe, is on May the 8th. I can't be certain on that. What else was that? I guess the last one would be Heritage Trails Committee has been doing awesome. They're helping the district out with GPSing all the parks, all the trails. And they're providing opportunities for, other future trails and that kind of thing. So I've kind of been involved with their meetings, but not all the time. Jim's been there just about every meeting, I think, on enough trails. The Friends Park, remember we had, what is his name? Pat Darby was inquiring about a piece of a lot at Friends Park. Well, he went to a pre-app meeting with the city, and with all the requirements of the city was gonna impose on him for that lot. He got an offer on his 5 acres and he decided to take the offer. So he's gonna get, I think he told me $90,000 or $80,000 for unbuildable lot. Somebody from across the creek actually purchased it or is in the process. And we may be able to go to him if we ever want to do a trail down Hess Creek there. We could probably go to him and ask permission. So kind of relieved. I do remember his property was up for sale for a couple $100,000 back 5 years ago when we were doing the park. But it's inaccessible and too many restrictions as far as the city goes to get it pulled in to that use. So we don't have to vacate our property. So Friends Park will remain home. And that's about it for projects.
Any questions? If not,
I would like to point out about Friends Park. I remember when we bought it, board meetings, people said that we were morons for buying land, no place, with no access, no nothing, that we were dumb. We paid very little for it. Now look at development around that. It was a wise investment then, and it's still a wise investment. People say that we have too much land. I'm gonna totally disagree. They're not making more land. They're making less land is available. Tiger, I went to a meeting 3 years ago. The executive director was there a long time. I knew him. He told the city council, I offered you land 20-something years ago. You turned it down. The reason given was that we didn't have the money to maintain it, and we didn't have the money to develop it. And now you're spending 10 times the amount for the property, plus you're having to develop it. You could have saved a fortune. But if you don't have enough foresight and you don't look at things ahead of time, you cost the citizens that amount of money. Short-sightedness is not a smart thing to do. As far as the superintendent's report.
we're not there yet.
Oh, okay, that's it.
Thank you. All right, pickleball.
I got a suggestion. I was looking at that picture in the corner of the room. It says, proposed covered swimming pool. I was hoping you'd strike swimming pool and put in pickleball courts there. We had I got some good news. We had a community event last Saturday at Jacob Park. And we announced to as many people as we could that anybody was invited, even though our club has dues. We pay for the net systems, we pay for we have paddles provided, the balls, etc. And I mean, unfortunately, we're in a spot there where it's not going to make a lot of noise because of the large area around it. But anyway, because of the weather, we were not in a position to announce it far in advance. We had backup dates and backup dates. Last year, I had to reschedule it 3 times. So my first point is, it's really important to have covered courts anywhere, as this sport is expanding dramatically. I think I've reported to you before, it's the fastest growing sport in the world. But anyway, some good news. The community event, we had 12, every inch of that Jacob Park was being utilized. We brought in coffee and donuts to start it. I brought in a professional teacher who's certified, and some of us know how to teach pickleball, so we had classes going for beginners, advanced players, etc. And then when we had raffle prizes using our own money again, and at the end we provided pizza. So, I mean, we feel we are a good contribution to the community. And the comment made earlier about the event at the pool, and I was really happy to hear that they saved the person, but can you run the slides?
Oh, yeah.
Basically, one of our members was playing at a court, not in Newburgh, but nearby, and he had a medical emergency. And somebody had an AED machine on site. And without that AED, he would have died. So he actually came to the event last Saturday. I mean, I was surprised how well he did. And the good news is as a result of him being saved by a piece of equipment, the AED, we're going to get one donated to us. And so we'll have that available at our pickleball court facility. And obviously, if we see somebody that's in a different part of the park nearby, that we will try to save anybody we can. And I'm hoping it doesn't need to save me some days. But anyway, it was a wonderful event. We will do this again in the future, but I can't stress enough, since I love Oregon, it is a very wet state for many months of the year. So the idea of having covered courts cannot be overemphasized. Thank you.
So let me ask you if, assuming you can't light them and cover them all at once, and I'm hearing you prefer covers to lights.
Yes.
In that order?
I would take covered first, and then they have the ability to be lit later.
We're talking covered as not enclosed.
No.
You just need a nice roof.
Just tall.
It's kind of like a roof system.
Like a George Fox.
Yeah.
That's what, and it was curtain size. Yeah, I've got a complete business plan, operating cost, it was generated as part of when I wrote that grant, including construction, parking lots, gravel parking lots.
We have
For the whole enchilada.
I remember you did a lot of work on
You need
that.
curtains, because it rarely rains straight down.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So, I mean, that's available, since it was done for the Parks District initially.
All right, thank you. Trails, Quentin online.
I have not seen him. Give me 1 second. No, he's not.
Okay. You know, else
I
wants
put,
to speak to trails?
I put their minutes in your packet.
Humor Cap? Anything to add to the minutes we have?
I've been working with Quentin and also with Cindy Riggs quite a bit on the GIS mapping project with Quentin. It's been a terrific help, and we're just honing all that for simultaneous release in spring when we open the park to all users with all the signage in place. And if you'd like to see any of those, feel free to see me after the meeting. And I've been working with Cindy to prepare the volunteer efforts. You're going to start seeing trails people at tables in the downtown market and also at some of our sporting events. So we're just going to work on getting outreach and awareness for us.
When's the downtown market start this year?
Yeah, it starts next Wednesday.
Great.
Usually first week of May.
I hear the weather's improved.
If it's like today, I'll take it.
Okay, the golf course advisory committee did not meet due to some scheduling conflicts with almost half the members, so they're tentatively scheduled to meet next month. So that's the report from there. Paddle launch.
I have not contacted the Marine Board. Sorry, Brett.
Okay.
Can you tell us what that is, Don? I'm Jason Fields.
Yes, I
Paddle
know
launch.
you are.
What's that? I know, I was waiting for you to say, who are you?
Giving you that time. Right. So, Bart, would you like to enlighten the folks about the paddle launch?
Sure.
This is Mr. Paddle Launch.
Yeah, about 10 years ago, Ford Family Leadership did a program, and the project they chose was to build a paddle launch. They had an agreement with the Edwards family to utilize their property at the end of what used to be Southeast 8th, now Dundee Landing Road. But it's across from Ash Island in Dundee. And it was a program where the Ford family provided a transport trailer and built a storage trailer and provided all the canoes and kayaks and opened that facility as a park and access for people to either rent kayaks and canoes on the weekend or use it. The public was able to use it to paddle around, and it's a really unique location due to the fact that we're in the Newburgh Pool. There's also Wing Dam at the upstream end of Ash Island that diverts most of the current into the main channel, so it's really easy to paddle upstream and circumnavigate the island, which takes a couple hours. But it's a really scenic area with a lot of wood structures from the old logging days when they used to build log rafts right at that location. And there's a lot of weeds that come in later in the summer, and it's so most of the power boaters stay out in the main channel. But we got, towards the end there, we had like 2,000 rentals during a summer period, just Saturdays and Sundays. So it's very popular with the community, and we would like to reestablish that.
Let them know why it went away.
We were using the property at the grace of Tom and Kay Edwards. They're very gracious to allow us to use that, but there were people who were going, there's adjacent to Filbert Orchard that they were leasing out, and there were people who were going in there with their four-wheelers and throwing it for everybody else.
And we're just trying to find a place to reestablish.
I can tell you, because I ran the operation back in the day, and it was self-sufficient. We had so many people wanting to do that. I still get phone calls, especially from the wine industry, because they want something else for their people to do too. So it wasn't just local, it was people from all over coming down and taking advantage of that. So it was a great recreational activity. And we got a grant to start that, correct?
Yeah, those from the Lotta grant. Actually, the county gave us some lottery money, and we raised about $65,000.
Yeah, it's great. People love it.
So do we not we don't actually own any property there, we were just allowed access?
Correct. And there's another great piece of property at the old City of Newburgh landfill that the county owns, and I assume that we won't get access into the administration. It's at the confluence of Chehalem Creek. We have access from Water Road above, and it would be another ideal spot to put that in, but not likely to happen. We're also working with a landowner on the opposite side of Dundee Landing Road. They're doing some development, and they've considered providing a long-term lease for us to use that property. So.
Somebody has a question?
Yeah, just a quick question. What's going to be done?
Sorry, sir, you need to let us know who you are, sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. My name's Eric Bolton.
Thank you.
What's going to be done to keep people from messing things up on the next go around on that?
I think that depends on where we put it. You know, I mean, it wasn't our land, he had his orchard there. I think it just depends on where we end up having it, so I couldn't really answer that question. You know, if we do put a paddle lance together, there's a real good possibility we'll have a gate on it. But again, we don't have a place, so it's hard to answer your question at this point. But we really would like to get people back on the river. It's a great resource this community has. And problem with Rogers Landing is that it's a beautiful, you know, place for motorized boats, but for kayakers and for canoers and so on, it can get a little interesting. So they like that calm area up that slough by the island. So hope that answers your question.
We were down there, you know, and it looked really nice. I just think it's too bad when stuff like that happens, and it'd be nice if
Well, if we
there's a plan to
actually,
keep that from.
if we actually own the property, we would, you know, we didn't want to put a lot of money into developing it to make it more valuable when we're trying to buy it from the owners. And, you know, hopefully we'll have compelling reason that if we actually own it or have a long-term lease where we can do the development. And we have a lot of parks that are open and overall able to control the riffraff.
Have we ever, I'm sorry, have we ever tried to do an easement where we purchase an easement?
We're trying to purchase that property.
Have we?
Yeah, 8th Street runs all the way down there. I don't know if you know where that is.
Yeah.
Runs all the way down. It was perfect. But, you know, because the person doesn't want to sell the property.
Hasn't the landowner passed away?
Tom has.
Tom has.
Yeah. So I don't know, Don, have you had any contact with them at all?
Not with Kay since
Okay.
Tom's passing. He passed a couple, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 months ago. Did you ever talk with Kay?
I talk to Kay every couple of months, but I've been trying to be respectful since Tom's
Yeah,
passing. She knows that we want it. We're never prepared to sell before, and hopefully that's an option, but.
We've been talking to them about that ever since I've been on the board. Sort of been a rite of passage that, you know, the newest board member got on the board, we'd send them out to see if they could make some progress on that, but never happened.
This was one of the few calls that I got since I announced I was running. Somebody brought this up, and I said, I don't know anything about it. And I actually talked to Casey, told her a little bit about it, so thank you for your.
Okay, staff reports, bonus points for brevity. Casey, we've heard enough from you. Scott. Oh, Scott.
Superintendent's report, I got 3 things.
Oh, I thought you did that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You cut them off.
I gave you a copy of the draft for the audit. And I wrote on it specifically, draft only.
I saw that.
Remember, we got into trouble.
Yeah.
I've been on the auditors. I've asked school district, Heidi's on the line, but I won't call on her. But the city of Newburgh and the Newburgh School District, all of their accounting offices meet. The difficulty with all of them is the audits. There's not enough auditors in this state right now. No one can get an audit done. We're constantly on them. But I'll have Heidi report in the May meeting about this. But it's not looking good for all over the state. But I wanted you to have what I had so that you could see. The second thing is the budget, the 23-24 budget that was approved. There was some questions about other staff getting the step increases. Lisa, I think you brought it up. I've given you exactly a copy so that everyone gets it and what the cost is, how we'll do it. And I wanted you to see that so that when we approve, if board members have any questions, just let me know. And we'll take that out of contingency. The bottom line will stay the same. So that will come out of contingency, which I have all that listed there. The third thing is I would like to change our June 22nd meeting to June 29th, if the board has no objection. We need to make sure.
I checked my schedule. I'm okay with that.
I have no objection.
You okay, Lisa?
Yeah, I'm good.
Jim, Gail?
I'll have to see where in the world I am, but we'll try to make it on June 29th.
Okay.
All right.
We'll have at least 4 of us apparently, so, okay. Go ahead and do the, we're ways out for the public notice anyway.
Yes, but I wanted to go ahead and bring it up and make sure that we post it.
Yeah. You got it.
I'll have Kat post it,
Okay.
and we'll post it at facilities. The June meeting will change from the 22nd to the 29th. So I wanted to make sure that we had plenty of time to post that. That's it.
Awesome. Any questions for the superintendent? Obviously with the gavel if you do, but, okay, staff reports. Scott, representing the golf course.
Yeah, all this recent good weather has really helped us get dried out and improve our grooming of the course. And people are showing up in growth now.
Okay. That was brief, thank you. I don't know if all the board knows, but without going into detail, it's none of our business. You know, Julie's not here, she had surgery today, so just keep her in your prayers. And, things went well. And that she recovers quickly. So, Richard.
Just doing IT stuff in the pool, making sure everything's operating efficiently and everything's safe and, yep.
Okay. Cal?
I did want to mention that the BMX people, the new leadership in there has been working closely with me on outreach, and we've been happy to help them publicize events, and the communication's nice there.
Okay. So, Wendy?
The pool is starting to go into about an 8-week period of a little bit of a lifeguard shortage after losing our George Fox lifeguards. So it just needs more time on deck for myself and Krista and whatnot, but
They'll
we'll
be
get
happy
through
to come
this.
down and help.
Yeah.
I'll be in your drowning victim for you.
Yeah, so we'll get through, but as soon as school lets out June 15th, I'll get my high schooler staff back and more hours available, and we'll be able to push forward from there.
Okay. Colin's not online. Let's see. Heidi, you got anything else you want to say, if you're still there?
I am still here. Just wanted to say we did get our paid leave Oregon application approved by the state. And that is it.
Congratulations.
Okay.
I would like to add, we're probably one of the first.
Do you have any other staff online, Richard?
Nope.
Okay. New administration. That's it. All right. Are there any board comments about the citizen comment evaluation? We're in the back. Hearing none. Anyone have any miscellaneous info at your own risk of getting whacked with my gal? I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Been moved, there's nothing to second, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.